unbelievable how far we've come in learning, and we are almost there just before I start building my favorite project, or rather dream project. Is something I've been trying to start up in my country for some time, and yeah, I'll be working on it soon. If you just look at what is remaining, we have metadata and docs, static files, testing, and debugging, and then when I'm done with that, then I can have maybe several other recorded videos or streams, rather, where I show you the planning for that backend. Okay, after the planning and designing, then I can go on to stuff like building, of course, now implementing every feature. Okay, and then after that, integrating, maybe you're building the backend, then doing like the DevOps. Okay, after that, then yeah, integrating it with the front end. Yeah, I think that will be pretty nice to do in public. All right, so let me learn about background tasks today. And okay, I just confirmed that my network is okay. So let's continue. Background tasks, you can define background tasks to be run after returning a response. This is useful for operations that need to happen after a request, but the client doesn't really have to be waiting for the operation to complete before receiving the response. So I need to read this again. This is useful for operations that need to happen after a request, but the client doesn't really have to be waiting for the operation to complete before receiving the response. Yeah, so this is good. Okay. Yeah, and it's a general use case for background tasks. Okay, generally. Okay, this is what you would want, that when uh the request has successfully been received by your endpoint, okay, and the client wants to have a particular response. Okay, so they execute your endpoint, you receive the request, return to them the response, but then there's something else that can be done. Okay, after you've sent to them the response, this thing is called the background task. Okay, and they're saying this includes, for example, email notifications sent after performing an action. Alena says, hello too. I would really appreciate the process as it will help me grow as a software engineer. Oh, that's good. So yeah, I'll be sharing that live soon. So they say, let me scroll. They say, as connecting to an email server and sending an email tends to be slow. I know many of you who have been doing backend development. By now, you should know that SMTP is, yeah, pretty slow. So they're saying, as connecting to an email server and sending an email tends to be slow. Several seconds, you can return the response right away and send the email notification in background. Next up, they're saying processing data. For example, let's say you receive a file that must go through a slow process. You can return a response of accepted HTTP 202 and process the file in background. Actually, this is typically what uh, YouTube does. Like after this stream, okay, if I want to edit this stream, I cannot do it immediately. Actually, YouTube will tell me the video is still being processed, even if I upload a video directly. Okay, YouTube will take some time to process it. But when the upload is successful, YouTube will tell me that upload successful. Okay, they'll confirm that the request, that the upload has been successful, but they won't. Okay, I mean, they'll confirm the upload is successful, but under the background they'll be processing the information. Okay, the video which I've uploaded, or a stream which has just ended. So yeah, these are the two common examples. Okay, one which I've dealt with a lot is email notifications. Okay, so yeah, email notifications and processing data are very good examples. And I can now continue to scroll to this section here. It says using background tasks. So they're saying, first, import background tasks and define a parameter in your path operation function with the type declaration of background tasks. First thing you do is import background tasks, okay, like we see here in the highlighted line of code. If you want us to understand is that they have imported background tasks and they have defined a parameter in the path operation function with a type declaration of background tasks. Okay, so if you go to this path operation called send notification, okay, having a path parameter of email, okay, which is a required string, we have background tasks, okay, a parameter called background tasks, and its type is background tasks. Okay, so yeah, so maybe if I can go through this code all together, we have from FastAPI import background tasks and FastAPI. We have an instance of FastAPI, and yesterday we learned about routers, which can be defined like this. Okay, then we have a function called write notification. If you look at it, it has no async def, just a normal function. Takes in an email, which is a string, and a message, okay, which is an empty string by default. Then they have a context manager here saying open a file called log.txt in the write mode, okay, W for write mode, as email file. So this will be the object with which we can use to manipulate the image file. Oh yeah. Okay, so content is equals to F notification for email message. Okay, so using an if string, they just build a string, okay, saying notification for email, and email is coming from this argument, and message is also coming from this argument. Okay, so they say email file dot write content. Okay, so to this file here, log.txt, they simply write this content, this string. Okay, basic operation. Then here we have a path operation decorator, okay, and it's app.post, so it's a post request, but has a path parameter called email. Okay, so the endpoint is send dash notification to a particular email. Okay, and FastAPI, like we know, will extract this email to this variable, okay, doing a filter if possible, and perform validation. Okay, and we know that because it has no default value, okay, and also that the default value is not none, we know that it's required. Okay, and then they're saying if we want to do any background tasks, we must make sure that on our path operation function, okay, this is the path operation function, and notice that it is async def. Okay, we have to add a parameter called background, a parameter whose type is background tasks. Okay, so they say, if you read this again, they say first import background tasks, which is this, and define a parameter in your path operation function with a type declaration of background tasks. So this is the type. Okay, meaning if I copy this, and assuming I've understood what they're meaning, okay, and again, feel free to correct me in the chat in case I'm wrong. Okay, which means that here, okay, this, for this variable, I can name it anything. It can be like, for example, bg tasks, like this. But, and of course, here I can edit this to be bg tasks, but the type must always be background tasks. Okay, and of course I can revert, okay, because background tasks is a better variable name than simply bg tasks. Then here I can say background tasks. They say background.add task. Okay, so they're adding that background task, which is write notification. Okay, and so ideally it will call this function. Okay, and it will pass in the email. Okay, and the message. Okay, why? Because this function called write notification has two arguments, email and message. So you put the function name, which is this one, then you place the email, which is for this argument, then the message, which is for this one. Okay, and then they simply return a message saying message notification sent in background. So when this endpoint is, a client sends a request to send a notification, okay, This response will be sent fast. Then the background task can be executed later. Okay. So if I open here, if you look at my app right now, I'm still using the structure from yesterday. I will attempt to run it and we test. Okay. And if it's confusing, you can tell me. I can undo to have only one main.py file. So, but then we have no router. Okay. We have no router. So maybe what I can do to make things simple, I copy this. This is not a main project. I remove what is there and comment out all this. Okay. Our code can start from right here. Okay. So it's easier to do it. And of course, later I can show you. We're going to, of course, when I'm building my application, we're going to do the planning, structuring, and all that kind of stuff. So if I go to the interactive documentation, that's what I'm looking for, here's the post. Okay. Documentation saying send notification, send notification. And if I try, and then we can see tell us that there's a parameter called email. It's a string and it's a path parameter. It's required. Okay. And we have to, the description says email. And for the responses, we have 200 for a successful response. And the media type will be application JSON. Okay. And the value they return is a string. And also we have a validation error. Okay. So, and of course, down here we see schemas. Okay. Like what the validation error will have, what this other one will also have. But let's try it out. Okay. So you can put an email like this, nehemiah@gmail.com, and execute. So in execute, you see they give us the example using Carl. You see the actual request URL. Okay. HTTP localhost, the port, send notification, then the path parameter, which I entered here. Okay. And then, and this is how ideal actually a front-end developer would execute this. Okay. After that, we get the message. Okay. Notification sent in the background. If I come here, okay. So you see we have log.txt, okay, created here. So let me delete it. Okay, I'll delete it. Then move to trash. Okay. Then I come, execute again, come back. You see, here it is. Let me scroll down to ensure that everything is working. Okay. We have, okay. So if I open this, you see, we have the same file here. Okay. All right. So let's continue studying this and we see what they say. They're saying FastAPI will create the object of type background tasks for you and pass it as that parameter. Okay. So dependency injection, remember. Yeah, so this is good. Then they say create a task function. They say create a function to be run as the background task. It is just a standard function that can receive parameters. It can be an async def or a normal def function. FastAPI will know how to handle it correctly. In this case, the task function will write to a file, simulating sending an email. As the write operation doesn't use any async and await, we can define the function with a normal def. That's what they've done. This is the function called write function. Doesn't use any async and await, so it is simply a normal def function. Okay, and like I explained earlier, it writes to a file. How is that? The file log.txt is created if it does not exist, and it's opened in the write mode, and then a simple string code content is created using these two parameters, like notification for email, full content message. Then they write to the file by saying email object, the file object called email file dot write content. Okay, simple as that. And like you see, we have that format here. Notification for the email, which is nehemiah@gmail.com, full colon some notification. After that, okay, we can read on. I explained this earlier. They're saying add the background task. inside of your path operation function, pass your task function to the background tasks object with the method .add task. Okay, this is what they say. So we are, by saying background tasks .add task, we are adding, okay, the task function, which is this. This is the task function code notification, adding it to add task. Okay, so we use a, what is it called, the function name, then we pass the arguments of that function. Okay, simple as that. So you say add task receives as arguments a task function to be run in the background, which is write notification, this one here, any sequence of arguments that should be passed to the task function in order. Okay, guess we have email. Okay, then they say any keyword arguments that should be passed to the task function, in this case, which is message equals to some notification. Okay, so this is the first argument, email. Okay, then message is a keyword argument. All right, so they go on to explain dependency injection. They're saying using background tasks also works with the dependency injection system. You can declare a parameter of type background tasks at multiple levels in a path operation function, in a dependency, meaning a in brackets dependable, in a subdependency, and so on. Okay, so yeah, we know about this. Okay, so they're saying it can be a parameter. Okay, it can be in a path operation function or in a dependency. They're saying FastAPI knows what to do in each case and how to reuse the same object so that all the background tasks are merged together and are run in the background afterwards. This is interesting because to do something like this using something like Django, you need a tool like Celery. Okay, for those who know, so let me show you Celery. Okay, they give me instead the plant. Okay, you need a task, a queue. Okay, so I wanted something that just explains Celery without having to mention Django. Okay, so generally Celery is a task queue. Okay, that you need to do background tasks for when you're working with Django. And usually you'll need something like a message broker like Redis or something like RabbitMQ. Okay, but I'm surprised that kids don't need it. So if this is the case, then it's very nice. Okay, but let's read on. So they say this works in Python 3.10 and above. They're saying from typing import annotated, from FastAPI import, background tasks, depends, and FastAPI. They create an instance of FastAPI, okay, and store it in a variable called app. They have a function called writeLog, which takes in a message, which is a string, okay. Then using a context manager, they open a file called log.txt or create it if it's not there, and they open it in a append mode, okay, because they're just adding to it, and they say as log, okay. So this the variable holding the object to the file, and they say log.write, as simple as that. And they write the message. Then we have a function here called getQuery, okay. So getQuery, which takes in the background task, okay. Look at this, the type is background task. So first we know what to do. Then takes a queue, okay, which is a string or none, and by default is none, meaning this queue is optional, okay. So they're saying if queue, they say message equals to found query queue, then they print a new line. Then they say background task dot add task, okay. They write a log, okay. They call this function with its argument, and the argument is message, which is this message here. Otherwise, if queue is not there, they simply return queue. So when we come to the path operation here, we see that the path operation decorator has not changed. The path operation function has changed, okay. We have an email, which was there before, okay, which is the path parameter, which is a required string. And then we have background tasks, okay, which is background tasks still, okay? Then simply to tell, so they're just showing us what they explained up here, okay? That we can have background tasks at multiple levels, okay? We can have it in a path operation function, okay? But also we can use it in a dependency. So if you look at Q, okay? This variable Q has been annotated. Sorry about that. The variable Q has been annotated. So you see that it's been annotated as a string, okay? But also it has metadata. In this case, it is a dependable, okay? They're using depends, okay? And the dependable is get query here. But remember, get query also for it has a parameter, which is a background task, okay? So they're saying whether we have it as a function parameter here like this, okay? Or right here in a dependable, FastAPI will know exactly what to do, okay? So, and like here we see the same message equals to message to email, they say background tasks dot add to add task, okay? Write log message. So here, okay, background tasks dot add task. This one, this variable is the same as this one here, okay? Background tasks dot add task, write log message. And if you notice, they're using this other method directly, okay? Then they have the dependable get query, okay? But get query, okay, also has its own background task, okay, which simply also uses the same write log message, okay? So even if we have write log being used inside our path operation function and being used by this dependable, still they're said up here, they said FastAPI. They say FastAPI knows what to do in each case and how to reuse the same object so that all the background tasks are merged together and are run in the background afterwards. Okay, so other versions and variants for those using Python 3.9 plus, what simply changes is using union, okay? But the rest is the same, okay? The rest is the same. If I go to 3.8 plus, same thing, okay? Here, 3.10 plus and 3.8 plus, here they just remove annotated, okay? But again, like I kept on showing you from the beginning, they say prefer to use the annotated version if possible. And again, if you don't know what annotated is all about, you can search the live tab of this channel to find out that stream where we studied about annotations. So they're saying in this example, the message will be written to the log.txt after the response is sent. If there was a query in the request, it will be written to the log in a background, okay? If there's a queue, it will be written, okay? How will it be written? Because of this function here, write log. So if I go back, they're saying, and then another background task generated at the path operation function, we write a message using the email path parameter, okay? Yeah. So it's that this message here is built using the email, okay? This other message here is built using the query, okay? So let's try it out. So I'll copy this code, go to main.py, remove all this, paste, and save. Then I'll go to the documentation, refresh. So now you see we have email and the query, okay? If I build up, I can build maybe with only the email, okay? Say at gmail.com, execute without passing a string, you see we get message sent. But if we check log.txt, okay, you see notification for that. Then at the end, in fact, let me remove everything, okay, because it's just appended. Okay, it appended, it did not overwrite. So if I execute, you see say message to Nehemiah at gmail.com. How does that happen? Because of this part. This, okay? Message to this. This is the message, okay? And it was a background task. But again, if we go to the documentation, I put a query, and I say maybe query is maybe say email underscore report. Let me just do something like that. Execute. Okay. I see we get still image sent, and this time we'll expect this. Where is it? This one here. Found query that. Okay. So if I come back to here, log.txt, you see we get now this time two. Okay. Found query and message to that. Why do we get found query first? Because if you check in our code, we have a dependable. Okay, so the dependable will be executed first. Okay, remember how they explained to us the order of operation is that a dependable is executed first. Okay, then everything to do with the path operation comes next. So that's how they've explained to us two background operations. Okay, so ideally, for example, if you want to send an email, you'd write your email logic. Okay, for example, inside here. Okay, that's good. Actually, in the project which I will be building, it involves sending emails. Okay, it involves sending emails a lot. So that will surely be demonstrated as I build that project. So yeah, very soon, next week actually, we shall be starting this project. So hang on tight. Okay, so I had read all this. Let's go to the technical details. They say the class background tasks comes from starlet.background. Okay, and you know that FastAPI was built on top of Starlet. Okay, they're saying it is imported or included directly into FastAPI so that you can import it from FastAPI and avoid accidentally importing the alternative background task without the S at the end from starlet.background. Okay, so there's one from starlet.background which does not have a S. Okay, so if I come here, you see from starlet.background, import background task. Sorry, excuse me. So that's good to know. So they're saying by only using background tasks and not background task, it's then possible to use it as a path operation function parameter and have FastAPI handle the rest for you, just like when using the request object directly. I need to read this again. By using only background task with an S, background tasks with an S, and not background task without the S at the end, it's then possible to use it as a path operation function parameter, just like in this case here. It's a path, it's a type for this path operation function parameter. Okay. And have FastAPI handle the rest for you, just like when using the request object directly. Okay, and if you remember, we looked at using the request object directly. So they're saying it's still possible to use background task alone in FastAPI, but you have to create the object in your code and return a starlet response, including it. Okay, so you can use the one without the S, okay, which comes from starlet. Okay, but you have to create the object in your code and return a starlet response, including it, which is a lot of work, and I wouldn't want to go that route. So they're saying you can see more details in Starlet's official docs for background tasks. I don't think I need to go there, okay, unless maybe our implementation needs it, but I already know what I want to build in that project, and I won't need that. So they're saying there's a caveat. They're saying if you need to perform heavy background computation and you don't necessarily need it to be run by the same process. For example, you don't need to share memory, variables, etc. You might benefit from using other bigger tools like Celery. Yeah, that's why I was wondering, like, how comes the guys in Django need Celery and then here, okay? So yeah, now I think it makes sense. So I'll read this again. If you need to perform heavy background computation and you don't necessarily need it to be run by the same process. For example, you don't need to share memory, variables, etc. You may benefit from other bigger tools like Celery. In other words, Celery is good if you have a heavy background task which can be worked on by a different process. Okay, and having a different process means you don't need to share memory and variables. Why? Because every process, okay, on the computer will have a block of memory given to it, which has its variables and everything else for that process, okay? So Celery is usually used to give heavy background computation to another process altogether. Yeah, so that now makes sense. But of course, for simple things like emails, certain emails, I don't think I would need Celery for that. But we shall see. They say they tend to require more complex configurations, a message or job queue manager like RabbitMQ or Redis, but they allow you to run background tasks in multiple processes, especially in multiple servers. So I guess let's have an example of this. So it's saying, but if you need to access variables and objects from the same FastAPI app, or you need to perform small background tasks like sending an email notification, you can simply just use background tasks. Okay, so background tasks simply help you send small background tasks like sending an email notification. Okay, we don't have heavy duty stuff. So we shall see that. And actually, in that application, I'll need background tasks that can help with like updating statuses of certain things. Okay, after some time. But again, those are lightweight. Okay, they're not heavy. And actually, I need to access variables and objects from the same FastAPI app. Okay, so I'll need background tasks. So they say recap: import and use background tasks with parameters in the path operation functions and dependencies to add background tasks. Yeah, so that's the end of this page. Okay, so yeah, we have come a long way, and if you've been consistent like me, yeah, a few things: 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, by the weekend we should be done with this and then start now applying. Okay, this is actually going through this whole guide, okay, is the first step. Okay, that is step 1. The real learning, okay, is going to come from, because I'm sure by now you might even have forgotten certain concepts maybe in some of these things. Okay, so the real learning will come from building. Okay, so yeah, I can't wait for that time to start actually planning and building the actual project. Yeah, let's meet tomorrow. Okay, let's meet tomorrow and maybe talk about metadata and URL docs, and then if possible we can go to things like static files. Yeah, so basically let's finish this week and then yeah, start on something next week. Bye for now, and